Hey everyone, Arthur Fantastic here, and today I'm going to be giving you an essay, a video essay, on Sumi Gaeshi, pulling guard, and modern jiu-jitsu rule sets. Now, you might be wondering, why is he speaking Japanese? Sumi Gaeshi, what's this? Among BJJ practitioners and the current lexicon of jiu-jitsu language, when we're talking about using butterfly hooks and getting underneath a person and elevating them, the John Danaher Death Squad, which is John Danaher, of course, Gordon Ryan, Gary Tonin, and basically all those folks in that B team New Wave Jiu-Jitsu Venn diagram. I don't even know, like that circle, which has in effect spread throughout most of modern jiu-jitsu and thus uses its lexicon as well, where we're hearing this word all the time: Sumi Gaeshi, Sumi Gaeshi, Sumi Gaeshi.
Sumi Gaeshi, which is like a lot about the butterfly guard. And
exactly.
Yoko Sumi Gaeshi counter.
Sumi Gaeshi. First of all, it's such a linchpin in the system.
Sumi Gaeshi, Sumi Gaeshi, Sumi Gaeshi action.
This is the corner throw or corner reversal, if you wanted to translate the meaning, from judo. It's listed among one of the throws, and it's a sacrifice throw, which is saying you're sacrificing position in an attempt to off-balance your opponent and then take them over and then thus get ippon, land on top, or even maybe knock out your opponent with the right amount of force. And I think that's important, that the knockout is viable. We've seen people get knocked out with upper body throws, like just double underhook pickup, put them down on their head. We saw Frank Shamrock do this. We saw Tito Ortiz do this. We've seen it many times throughout MMA in general. And we've also seen this judo, whether it's like I think they might call it a Japanese whizzer, where you go almost like a Seoinage, but you go all the way through and they bash their face on the ground. I'll try to cut that in now too. We've seen many throws also in MMA land with a knockout or enough to daze an opponent and then an immediate follow-up, which is classic jiu-jitsu, and even more apt, classic judo. But today's judo is a little bit different, and I'm gonna be doing a video on that soon. Recently been hearing a lot of videos of people in the judo content creator sphere discussing their distaste for the 2024 Olympic judo rule set. And so, there's obviously a lot of, not just in jiu-jitsu, not just in judo, but all in the whole grappling set. I mean, ADCC calls itself submission grappling or submission wrestling. So it is really something that we have to look at, that we are obviously beholden to, because the rules make an important portion of how a match unfolds. And if people are going to Olympic judo, the tickets ain't cheap, and they're complaining about it, and people who take their family to judo matches. I was just speaking to Jake Shannon in my recent interview, where you take them to wrestling matches, judo matches. The rules become so convoluted that it's no longer interesting. Like, why is it that this is happening? Why is that happening? It should be so obvious to even the layman that who's winning. You know what I mean? There's very little to do with these intricacies that the normal person can't understand. What the normal person and most viewers, even those initiated into grappling, don't understand is a person falling to their butt, not trying to get underneath them so much as, but rather sitting on their butt, not initiating a movement or an attack or unbalance, but literally sitting directly down and then attacking opponent. Okay? So their whole, and just to understand, from the bottom, their whole MO, the modus operandi of jiu-jitsu is position before submission. So it's sweep, then submit. Sometimes submit from the bottom if it's open. But most of the time at the high levels, it's coming from a top position or a leg lock, or you have a rear mount, which you could say is always technically top, but in reality, if you look at some of the position, the person's on bottom with the other person on top, but it doesn't matter if you're not stopping someone from strangling you unconscious. So, that being said, this whole idea of sitting down, right, is so that he will force the engagement of the other person to come on top of them, to then use Sumi Gaeshi to elevate them, get underneath, and get on top. Seems like a long way around just standing up grappling with them, okay? Now, let's look at what a Sumi Gaeshi looks like in the wild. This is what really initiated a lot of my thinking, was this video that I was watching. It just was a TikTok or not a TikTok. I don't have TikTok right now, but I have a TikTok. Go follow me, Arthur Fantastic. But I deleted the app because I needed space. These videos ain't small. You know what I'm talking about. I saw the video on a reel, or maybe it was Instagram Reels or YouTube Reel. This guy encounters this ram, or yes, it must be a ram, charging at him. And this is how he deals with it.
One.
As we see, this guy, who doesn't seem even trained, what he sees is some animal barreling at him. Okay, he could be trained, I don't know. But the animal is charging him. He balls up, kind of goes to his butt, and as the animal is about to make contact with him, he allows it to go over him and uses his legs to launch it over him. This is close to what a Sumi Gaeshi looks like. He's literally using the elevators, the hooks, albeit on the flank as opposed to the crotch, and sending him over. He's elevating, sending him over. It's also close to what people may recognize from Street Fighter, Ryu's throw, also called a tomonagi. So I'm going to show a little bit of Street Fighter, what I'm talking about, and then I'm also going to show a video from Shigashi. You can check him out here on YouTube, or if you're on BitChute and you're watching this, you can check him out on YouTube. He's got BJJ Fanatic videos as well, instructionals, tons of material, tons of content, worth a watch. But let's see what I'm talking about. Who's Ryu? What throw are we talking about?
You guys already pull guard. The difference now, instead of posting on the foot extended and then sitting down, we're gonna make the same movement, but we're gonna spring our leg back. I'm gonna pull him forward, load my leg, sit under, and kick him right over the back. And now you end in this nice side control or mounted position where you could immediately go into juji and such. But it's a nice, easy tomonage, very easy to learn.
All right, I know what you're all thinking. Damn, that took a lot of health out of Ken's life bar. But seriously, we see Shigashi teach the tomonagi, and it is a move that once again requires that active off balancing, pulling you over it, then this particular technique, as opposed to the Sumi Gaeshi, the foot's on the hip or lower abdomen, you take them over, you land on top. Once again, this is a sacrifice throw. You're rolling under a person. The name in itself implies that you are sacrificing a position. You are in danger. It's dangerous. That doesn't mean don't do it. That means to do it with this in mind. But that's not what we see in terms of the philosophy or understanding in a lot of the current mainstream jiu-jitsu competition, where we aren't seeing like the 2-second clip of John Danaher when he's putting a wedge in against a high crotch, taking him over with a Sumi Gaeshi. What we see is people literally sitting down, and because people know that they won't be punched, kicked, or kneed in the face, they will literally, and they know that the other person has to interact and engage with them. They have, in a way, sort of played the game of the system. Let's see what it looks like when people pull guard in jiu-jitsu.
Pulling guard is killing jiu-jitsu. It makes the matches extremely boring to watch and makes a mockery of the sport.
Touch him.
ADCC does this well already, but other organizations such as IBJJF need to penalize pulling guard to discourage this passive, boring style.
So when we look at these matches that are playing in the background, this is just the tip of the iceberg. It gets worse. And I'm going to show you another clip in a moment, again, from Josh Medvinsky, available on YouTube. And I think he's got other social media. Check out his page. You'll find out. He's hitting the nail on the head. It's a passive and boring style. No one understands what's happening. And in fact, our minds, basically speaking, even people who have trained, they're just like, there's something about this that isn't right. I've already expounded on what I mean by this. The obvious implication of it being a real fight, we're training for real fights, sports jiu-jitsu is included in that. And because there isn't any kind of rule in place to push back and inhibit this type of behavior, it happens. But no one's going to do that on the street. No one's going to sit down in front of a person. They're going to try to stand. They're going to push a person away. They'll take them to the ground, okay? But in this competition, they just literally sit down in front of each other. The first clip of them both holding hands and falling on to like a seated guard position. It's ridiculous. And I'll let Josh expound on this topic again with another small clip.
This is the unfortunate state of jiu-jitsu. There's no rules in place to prevent someone from staying seated. Due to this flawed rule set, the reality is if you want to compete in the sport, you need to be able to pass your opponent's guard. Otherwise, you're going to end up like the guy on the screen. This guy doesn't know how to pass guard. Because of that, this butt scooter is easily able to leg lock him to win this match.
So we're watching these clips in the background, and they're literally like, oh, please, get in my guard, literally on his ass, scooting toward a person. It's... If someone did this in public, they would be arrested for indecent activity and possibly thrown in a mental institution. Like if you saw a person and they're in like tattered clothes and they're going like this on the ground, you're like, oh, that pobrecito, this man is crazy. Someone take care of this man. It's beyond reason that this is actually happening, because in what is fiction, life imitating fiction, the meme, like, get in my guard, bro. Get in my guard. Come and get me, get my guard. Has become reality. It's not even a joke anymore. They're literally doing that in competition. Like, that's their strategy. Get in my guard. And see, the best rebuttal is what Josh just brought up, which was, if you want to compete in the sport, you better learn how to pass. So it was like, oh, well, the dismissive response is, well, just learn how to pass, okay? I mean, obviously, if you can't pass, you can't make me wrestle. So they are admitting that they're giving up bottom position to force a person to engage with them on the ground in a, if you don't engage with me, then you, like, you're just as much as stalling as I am. And there is a level of, like, recognition that, okay, yeah, I'm not wrestling with you. It's kind of silly. Now, my thoughts of the origins of this type of strategy, this way of approaching the beginning of a grappling match, or even in training, I think begins, as I just mentioned, in training, that people just, okay, they've had like a dozen rounds. Maybe they've been training all week. Maybe they only had one round today, but they've already blew their load of their stamina and ability, and they maxed out aura, and now they've lowered their power level. And I'm just working my guard today. Jake Shannon quoted somebody else, and it was something like, the guard has like a seductive lure about it. It is seductive. It's seductive in its laziness to just get to guard on your back. Not saying that guard is bad. Not saying that leg scissors in catch wrestling is bad. Not saying that being on bottom and using the guard is bad. What I'm saying is, when you just sit down in front of a person, not even trying to off balance and pull them in, just literally sit down in front of a person and scoot toward them on the ground, it's kind of being disingenuous to what's actually happening. We're trying to recreate a combat, okay? And there's a level of respecting the reality of it. You're just saying, oh, we're just playing a game. I'm not going to respect, like, that you could kick me in the nuts at any fucking time, knee me in the face, jump up and stomp on my knees, grab my clothes and pull me over if I'm living in a climate where I'm always wearing pants, or just pants you. You know what I mean? I'm just going to pants this person because you can. You know what I mean? You're on the ground, legs up, and it's not really imitating a significant, not a significant, a more relevant path to winning or dominating a fight. That's not what's going to happen. That's not what's recreating that type of situation. You have to resist the will of someone. Okay, just letting someone get on top of you just seems like a lazy way of, like, grappling. Why don't we then just start from knees? Why don't we just start the grappling from knees? Why do we start it standing up? You know what I mean? And I think there's levels of, okay, we're wrestling and we're in the middle of something, and I might be in a situation where this would be dangerous with strikes, and I'm completely going to acknowledge this. You know what I'm saying? It's not that it never happens, it's that I'm literally choosing to put myself in that situation and force the other person, who in any other scenario could do a million other things than get on top of me and grapple me. And the only reason that they're doing that is because you're in a grappling match, and that's the only way to then engage with you. It's if you think about it, it's really gaming the system. You're forcing this game to be played, and the other person's handicapped in the things that they can use. Even some passes, the way, like, people jumping over, and like the ref will stop the match, you know what I mean, and be like, oh, you're disqualified. And depending on what type of promotion or sanctioning body is going through this, like, certain positions, when you go through certain passes, you are penalized because that's reaping or whatever. And then finally, many of the, especially when you look at nogi where there's less things to use, you're not allowed to attack the legs in many of the lower belts. And so you are creating this situation where a person is building up the lower ranks, the foundation of everything that they're building on in terms of their own personal style of martial arts. And you're giving them an environment where, oh, your legs, don't worry about your legs. You worry that down the line. I mean, they're there and people will attack them. And in high competition, there is a lot of it because it's very vulnerable, and if you're not keen to it, you will get caught. Shout out to my catch wrestlers and sambo players for teaching me that very early on in my grappling journey. I think this goes to show you how the match rules will result in what we have today in boring, no one fucking watching jiu-jitsu matches. I've been to flow grappling events. Who was it? Oh my gosh. Was it Fight to Win? I've been to Karate Combat. Karate Combat does a pretty good job, but once again, there's so much stalling in modern jiu-jitsu. I'm seeing it live. I've been to matches myself. I've competed, and it's just when people aren't going for it, people are playing this conservative game. I'm just going to sit back. The biggest example of this is the rather sit down, but there is a lot of just like, oh, and I've talked about it in the previous portion of this series where I'm talking about rule set, that people are, they're just going through the same cycle. I'm standing up, I'm getting back in there. He does something, I just stand back up, I get back in. Not trying to pass, not trying to attack, but the most blatant and like everybody just doesn't fucking understand it except people who want to do it and defend it, is this guard pulling, just sitting down. Like, I grabbed you, I can sit down now and I can let go. And now I'm just gonna play this game. What's stopping them from kicking you in the face or right in the nuts, stomping you out, like fucking doing a million things? Just sakurabaing you. You don't want to. I'm not gonna get in your guard. I'm gonna kick you. Right? That's just duh. I'm not gonna go down there. Why? Get in my guard, bro. What are you afraid of my guard? Why would I just get on top of you? Stand up. You know what I'm saying? And maybe it's a juxtaposition in terms of philosophy, and I think that's a lot of it. Like where I say the beginning is this environment, but philosophically it's being created by the BJJ community. There's not a lot of standing wrestling training from when I was beginning, but there is that now, and there really isn't like a big, large bar to just add a little bit of stand-up wrestling to your training. And most, as I said, most schools have embraced this, but competition has not done anything, and it just creates these matches that are boring. No one's watching except people who do it, and that's problematic. And people who do it, not every one of them watch it because it's not fucking entertaining, unless it's like, these guys are going to put it in there. These guys are going to go for it. So this is just some thoughts on what we are talking about in this series of what is aggressive, what is trying to go and attack and use your opponent or yourself and affect them, like actually attack or defend, rather, and separate that rather from just sitting down and you have to engage me down here. Haha, I'm playing this game and you gotta engage me now. Like, it's kind of silly, and no one really understands it, and people kind of get this feeling of like, that's kind of dumb, that's kind of silly, and and the only reason why some of the matches that we've obviously had that have been classics, that are one person's this style, one person's that, it is because they are trying to win those matches. Okay? Fair enough. I can't say that there isn't any kind of merit to the style. Okay? I won't say that even in a real situation that style wouldn't work. I mean, especially, you've seen these people that don't fucking train. That may work because people, but then again, soccer kick to the face is pretty devastating. Getting stomped in the nuts is also devastating. Getting kicked in the nuts is devastating. We don't train those. We don't train to dodge those. We don't train to defend those. Can you defend those? What are you going to do? I won't, once again, discount it completely, but there has to be some kind of control in causing stalling, causing shit to be boring. It's a direct, unless they're dropping and attacking and like doing something, it's become very, very tedious to even talk about or watch, because just even talking about it, it's just I'm explaining the same thing, but that's literally what's happening in all these matches. There's like a stall, they stall out somewhere, they sit to their butt, they repeat these cycles, as I discussed in this last video with video footage. It's this conversation is just starting because everybody is kind of afraid to discuss things that may go against the flow. Okay, people have been questioning it for a long time, but I think now we're getting to critical mass, as they say, critical mass, and we're going to get to a point where this discussion is going to bleed into the actual rulemaking, and it's going to happen soon. It's already happening with the CJI. It's already happening when we see the pit in Karate Combat, which is going to be used by CJI, and they call it the alley. So let's go forth, discuss this, talk about it in the comments. Give me a like, give me a subscribe if you're into this type of content. I'm also talking about Karate Combat. I'm also talking about sports movies, karate movies in the future. I'm also talking about the upgaming only or / betting for the Karate Combat events as they go on. And then we also come back afterward and discuss the wrap up of what happened and why it happened. I appreciate you watching this video, watching all the way through. Stay up, stay vigilant, stay locked and loaded. Shalom, shalom, peace in